guys, and welcome to Dave's Model Workshop. This is part 2 in a series on how to weather your models. If you haven't seen part 1, it's all about using the salt technique to add colour modulation, lots of colour modulation in the first part, chipping, adding rust, stuff like that, pin washes as well. So if you haven't seen that, go back and check it out first, but otherwise, on with the show, part 2. And this is all about finishing steps and pigments and mud. Enjoy. Well, it's been about 6 weeks since I last updated these for this video, so in the meantime I've been doing a few detail pieces. So I've been replacing the headlights on the Scout car, I've been putting on some stowage onto the Sherman, a couple of details like the bullets in the 50 cal on top there. It's little stuff stowage on the white Scout car, but it's been little fiddly stuff, it hasn't been big stuff. Tracks are on, looking okay, but really we need some mud. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's based on my mud tutorial, which you can find elsewhere on my channel on YouTube. If you're interested, go check it out. But I'm going to go ahead with it now and just see if that gets us a bit closer to the mark. Here's the Sherman's mud. I haven't gotten onto the Scout car yet, but the Sherman feels pretty good to me. This light is perhaps not showing it up to its best, but I'll wait till it all dries and then I'll take a couple of photos for you guys to see. Here's the Sherman after the first coat of mud. So look, I'm fairly happy with it, but I don't feel that it looks realistic enough. It's a bit too deliberately glooped on and I don't get any sense of real mud. It's a bit monotone. So I'm going to mix up some lighter mud and coat that over the top. Also, bit of a rookie mistake, I completely forgot to paint the wheels black, the rubber part of the road wheels black. So I'm going to see what I can do about fixing that as well. So yeah, I'll go on and rectify those two things. So same again with the mud, I'm just going to mix up a lighter colour and daub it on around sort of the outside so we've got a bit of a different tone. And then I think I'm going to mix up a different tone again with a darker oil paint, and that's going to feel a bit more fresh, wet mud as well. So we've got a bit of modulation in those dirt areas. Let's see how we go. Here's the paint and glue mixture, so you can see the lighter tone compared to the previous tone. And all I've done is a 50-50 mix of Desert Yellow and Flat Earth from Tamiya. So let's go ahead, put some dirt in that, and then glue it on. And here you can see the difference after I've done a few different tones of mud. So you can never really know until this stuff dries, once the PVA glue dries. But you can see here I've got the original tone and the lighter tone and a darker oil paint tone that I used. I started off with a bit of Van Dyke Brown, and then I moved on to some raw umber to really darky it up and muddy it up. So look, I'm going to see how this dries out. It looks a bit gross now. We'll see how it looks in the morning. I'm going to leave it for now. Cheers. So after the mud painting and letting it dry for 24 hours and doing another coat, here's where we're at. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's, let's get down low and zoom in a bit. It's not too over the top. It's fairly realistic, I feel. I've also done a very light smattering of mud on the Scout car. Wheels still to be done, but I will get to those very soon. But tonight I'm going to move on to doing the last step of my weathering, which will be pigments. So I'd love to say to you, look, buy cheapo pigments from your local art supply store and just grind them up, and that would be great. That's what I used to do. I used to buy big chunks of oil pigment like this, scrape them with a scalpel, and you'd end up like that with lots of pigment scraped into a bowl. It's not the same. To be honest, this is the one time where I will say to you, you have to buy, fork out the money and buy the real stuff. So AK Interactive, I use these because my local shop stocks them. They're pretty good, and we're just going to get stuck in with some pigments. Here goes. I'm going to be using European Earth. There are other tones, so I've got a Sienna Soil, which is quite nice, or a North Africa Dust for very light areas, but I'm just going to start with this one. So there's just a bit of pigment in the bottle cap. Got a nice old brush that I don't care too much about. Dip it in there, get a bit on, and very, very gently we're just adding pigment, draping it down the side. The beauty of this stuff is if you don't like it, just wash it off or blend it off with a damp finger or anything like that. Anything that's slightly wet will get rid of it for you. So that one, a bit too heavy-handed there. I'll move that in the light and you can see that's better. You can get a sense of how heavy-handed that one was. So a bit too much, try blending it out. If that's still not working, grab a tissue. Then suddenly you can see, not too bad. So I'm going to keep going with these, but you get the sense of how to use these. It's fun. This is a good bit. I enjoy this. As you're doing this, try and follow where rain would drip off the tank. So try and highlight those sort of corner areas and then just bring it down from there. You want it to look like streaks of rain or streaks of dirt that have come from the top areas. You can be a little bit more heavy-handed with the horizontal surfaces. Just keep going until you're happy with it. Just check out the difference that this makes. It's beautiful stuff. I really do enjoy this part of things. You get these really subtle effects. And again, if you don't like it, you can wash it off. But really, it's very forgiving. I love this stuff. And like I said, I'm the king of cheap modelers, but for this, you can't use inferior product. Buy as good as you can afford, or buy some medium price stuff to experiment with, but really, it's fun and it's beautiful. Look at those highlights. I'm going to zoom the camera in a little bit there. Look at that. Just gorgeous. Love it. So here's the Sherman. Pretty happy with that. Really does just bring out the highlights beautifully, gives you good modulation and gives you great rain streaks. So, time to move on to the Scout Car. More of the same, just gentle streaking down those vertical panels, make it look like it's streaked rain. You can't go wrong. It's very forgiving stuff. Love this. You may have gotten that indication by now. Just brings out the highlights beautifully. So, as a rough guide, seriously, 30 seconds work, just brings it out, brings out the detail. So, I'll keep going, but that's pretty much it. And this is where we're at. I think the final step for me is going to be just an overall very light spray of some highly diluted flat earth with maybe a little bit of white mixed in just to lighten it up, and that's just going to tie everything together, make it feel a bit more unified, a bit more of a whole. So I'm going to get stuck in with the airbrush now. So here we go, really light spray, low PSI, you can barely see it going on, and that's a good thing. It's just going to tie it all together. That's the plan at least. Barely even know it's there. Try and brush from above, that way the dust would settle more naturally there. And I think we're pretty much done with the Sherman. You really don't want to overdo it there. I'm going to stop now before I do overdo it. And I'll do the same thing with the white Scout Car. I'm just going through and putting some mud on the wheels of the Scout Car finally, so you can kind of see the effect we're going for there. And I just thought I'd flick some on the sides of the vehicle as well. So I've got a paintbrush that I've glued into my mud mixture. I've actually thinned it a little bit with some spirits, and now I'm going to try this effect where you just grab the paintbrush and flick it like that. So I'm doing this on the doors because I didn't want to leave those off. But you can see the effect that gets where you get these lovely little splatters, random splatters, and I'm going to do a little bit more on the sides of the Scout Car as well. So I'll put it on its side so you can see the effect, try and get out of the light, and it's just another nice random effect that you can get. It's a little tricky to control. Yeah, you can see there the splatters that we've ended up with, and those will dry quite nicely. be a bit more subtle and just another piece of texture to the vehicle. So one more thing I'm going to do is some more paint chipping. I feel like we haven't really got that paint chip effect very strongly here. So I've got some dark iron, Tamiya XF84, and a little sponge, and we're just going to do that sponge technique again. So you get off most of it, and then just get stuck in, and put some chips in wherever you think you would get chips. It's hard to see there. Try and zoom in nice and close for you there. But I think already you can see where I've done it sort of on the edge of the doorway there, there and there. It does give an effect that is quite effective. So I'll keep going with that for a bit longer. Don't know why I'm whispering. Weird. One more thing, I'm thinking that I need to have some better leaking coming from the petrol caps. So I'm going to use some AK Interactive kerosene leaks and stains. It's a nice little enamel wash. Just make sure that you really stir it strongly, very vigorously before you use it. And we just want some nice fine leaks like that. So I'll zoom in there so you can see these. They're already drying quite rapidly. That's better, so you can see them now. So I might do a couple more on the other side, and maybe something on the Scout car if I can find somewhere appropriate. I thought with a few of these chips on here that it might be nice to add just a little bit more rust. I felt like it was missing a certain something. So all I've got is my rust pigments, and I'm just going to try and add those in nice and subtly, not too much. That's pretty much too much. Let's get some paper towel in there and try and resurrect that. Alright, might have to come back to that in a second. I'm going to attack it with some paper towel and some earbud cleaner things. Okay, I've used some water, used an ear cleaner, and I might just give up on that idea. Might try just a small tiny smidgen of it. So I think what went wrong there is I dipped my paintbrush in the pigments and I didn't wear any of it off. Yeah, that's much better, much more subtle. Yeah, that's much more the effect I was after. So the beauty of pigments, if you stuff them up, I was about to say something else there, if you stuff them up, you can always save yourself. They do come off, unlike, say, paint. There we go. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. The last thing I'm going to do is stick back on all the fiddly shit that I've managed to knock off these over the last couple of months. So little tiny bits that go over the top of periscopes on the tank, just about there. Little fiddly things that you would have just broken constantly all the way through. Stick those on, and then let's see how we look. I'm pretty happy with the end result. Just busy doing those last little finicky things, and I had to share one cool thing with you. So these little vision block things on tanks, great hint. Don't try and paint them gloss black. It's really hard to get it in the right spot. Don't try and paint them tinted glass. Take a pencil. Take a fine tipped pencil and just colour them in lead pencil. That way you get the reflectiveness, you don't have to mess about, and slightly glossy gives you that real sense of that being, you know, perfect. I love it. Easy. Time for the big reveal. So we've got some before shots. Here's the Scout car before, here's the Sherman before, here's the two of them before we did any of this advanced weathering. Pretty average. They look like toys, if I'm being honest. And now, how do they look? Here we go. So here's the Scout car. As you can see, a lot more colour modulation, a lot more realistic. The mud, I've left the doors off because I don't know how I'm going to pose those exactly on my diorama, but the doors do fit and they look tonally the same. Yeah, I think it's in a good place. I really love, we'll do a close-up, I really love that feel. It feels like armour plate to me. And as for the Sherman, excuse me, the Sherman, very happy with that too. So I think that mud really gives it a sense of place and space. Just again, that colour modulation, the overall effect. It's, you know, it's been out in the rain. It doesn't feel like a toy anymore. It feels like a real machine, and I hope, you know, I'm quite happy. I hope this has been of use to you guys, and yeah, please feel free to chime in with any comments or questions in the comments below. Otherwise, visit my blog. It's davesmodelworkshop.com, and we'll check you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.